Hello, 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 everyone. It is Dr. Amanda here, your plant-based lifestyle physician and health coach, who is here to educate you and empower you to make healthy decisions so that you can live your most abundant life. All right, so I have to give my disclaimer, as you know, that even though I am a medical doctor and my guests may be medical doctors, we are not here to give you medical advice. This is education information only, and I definitely recommend you contact your own personal healthcare provider before implementing any changes into your lifestyle. All right, now that we got that out the way, I would like to welcome my guest, Dr. Alicia Shelly. Thank you for allowing me to talk with you today. Dr. Shelly is a board certified internal medicine and obesity medicine specialist at WellStar Medical Group in Douglasville, Georgia, which is near Atlanta, Georgia. She is also the host of Back on Track Overcoming Weight Regain podcast and YouTube channel. She is a fitness enthusiast and has completed six marathons, and is training for Ironman, which I'm going to go into deeper later. But when I heard that she was doing all this, I was like, oh, we definitely have to have her on this channel and talk about all things fitness. So again, welcome, Dr. Shelly.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me. I'm so happy to be able to talk and just talk about my experience.
Yes, yes. So is there anything that you want the audience to know more about you than what I mentioned before we go in, deeper into the conversation?
Oh, what? The one thing I would say is that I have been one who has struggled all my life with weight and trying to be healthy. And so sometimes it's taken me a bit, but I think I finally figured out how to stay healthy, or at least how to continue to maintain a healthy lifestyle. So know that I've been there where you've been. I've started at the bottom and now I'm trying to work my way up. So I'm happy to share those experiences.
Love it. I love it. Yes, we all have a journey that we're on. And the more we hear people's journeys, I think the more we're like, okay, I'm not so unique that it's not possible that I can't get to my actually health and wellness goals. So thank you for mentioning that. So I'm going to start out at the beginning. So you're internal medicine and obesity medicine specialist. So tell me, what made you go into obesity medicine?
So, it was something I have been interested in. I actually started in medical school doing research in obesity medicine. My mentor was a medicine physician, and it just it took like some things you just are intrigued about. Like I mentioned, I struggled with a healthy lifestyle, with maintaining a healthy weight. And so it was something that I was like, man, can I help myself?
Yeah.
Help me. So it kind of something that I've gone through. It's something that I've been trying to not only implement in my life, but help others too.
Yes. See, that's amazing, because I didn't even know obesity medicine was a thing until I think I finished residency, and I actually just happened to see a conference about obesity medicine. So it's great that you were exposed to that in medical school. So most of the time I tell people, especially if they're interested in medicine, like, you don't necessarily know what you want to do going in, because you're going to be exposed to so much stuff and you never know what you're going to be drawn to. Like, it's just amazing. So that's great. So you said, okay, obesity medicine, you were trying to help yourself, and you already mentioned that you're on this journey of weight loss. So, go in a little bit more detail and tell us about your weight loss journey.
Yeah, I have been overweight, had extra weight for as long as I can remember, even as a child. So, and even as a child, I would like stay active. I played basketball. I remember one time in high school, I was like, okay, I'm going to get on my bike. I'm going to ride my bike around we lived next to an middle school. So it's like, we're going to ride our bike around the middle school twice. And I kept doing that like every day, riding my bike. And I realized that I've never weighed myself, but I noticed my clothes were getting smaller. And I'm like, oh, great. But then college hits, and college, I don't know about you, college, you were just eating whatever it was in the cafeteria.
Right.
What thing of exercise? Like, oh no. So instead of like gaining the freshman 15, I think I gained the freshman 25. Like it was just off the chain. I could not myself. But then my last year of college, I actually moved off campus and started cooking for myself. So cooking healthy foods. I actually had like a water aerobics PE class. And so I was like, okay, we're doing that 3 times a week. And I started losing weight again. And so then another stressor came, med school.
Whole different type of stressor, right?
Oh, different type of stressor. Before you know it, at the end of residency, I was like, "Ooh, I done gained weight again." So, and when I look back, it was like periods of stress and periods of not kind of keeping my eye on being healthy or making sure I was doing those healthy habits. Life just got in the way. Mm-hmm. And when I looked up, I was like, "Oh my!" And then not only did I gain weight in residency, then as an attending, you would think we finally graduated, no more school. Clearly, I was just living life because I got to my highest weight a couple of years after starting residency. After graduating residency. And that's when I knew I was like, I need to do something. At this point, I would say my weight was around 285 was the highest weight. And at that time, I decided to do bariatric surgery. So I got the bariatric sleeve. And it helped me get down to about, I would say, 210, 212, 205,
Excellent.
depending on the day. But then once again, when I take my eyes off the ball and I just do whatever, I start to gain the weight back. Mm-hmm. And so that's when, even after the surgery, I gained weight. Unfortunately, 25% of people who have the bariatric surgery can have what we call weight regain, where they regain weight back. And that's when I was like, so you got through life differently. You can't just keep going off, like you have to not stop. And that's when I realized you can't stop with the exercise. You can't stop looking at what you're doing. In fact, this just can't be a diet. This needs to be a lifestyle change where you're incorporating healthy habits on a daily basis. And so with that being said, I've been able to kind of lose the weight that I had gained after bariatric surgery, and then some more with being that consistency, continuing a healthy diet. Currently, I'm vegetarian, so I'm making sure I'm getting my fruits and vegetables, making sure I'm getting my water in, making sure I'm exercising, because at this point, we just know. This has been a trend for me. If I take my eye off the ball and say, I'm doing nothing, back at 285.
Yeah, before you know it, right? It just comes on, sneaks on. Yes, yes. So you said you had that, roller coaster going up and down, up and down. And it seems like you had to actually make some changes in your mindset to actually say, okay, I know that this is what happens, because you have to reflect on like, okay, what was going wrong? So what would you think those mindset shifts would have been for you to actually now be on this journey where you're losing weight and keeping it off?
Yeah. So last time when I regained the weight after bariatric surgery, I had to address the fact that I felt very shameful, because at this point I'm actually helping people with obesity medicine. So I've been, I've been going to the classes, got board certified, and now all of a sudden I find myself at this large weight. And I felt ashamed. I'm like, how am I going to go in this room and telling somebody else they need to lose weight and I'm not there, or if I'm not doing the things that need to be done? And so I, number one, addressed that feeling, said, yeah, it's okay to feel ashamed. However, I didn't stay in that feeling. I didn't stay in that. I didn't say, well, it's just all over, forget it. I decided that there are things that I can do to kind of help with losing weight. And now I'm going to try each day. I'm going to try to hit one or two of those marks, whether I'm going to try to get my water in, I'm going to try to exercise. And that was kind of my goal. I didn't really, yes, I always tell people, they ask me, are you losing weight? I'm like, I'm always losing weight. We're just, but the goal was, I didn't have like a particular goal. I just knew I wanted to be healthy. And so my mind shift changed there. Sometimes I think we get discouraged because we're like, I didn't lose 10 pounds in 1 month. And that wasn't my expectation. If I'm losing 1 to 2 pounds a week, that's great. I realize there are going to be weeks where I plateau and I just don't lose, or my cycle comes on and I gain 5 pounds. I'm aware of that, and I just don't let it bother me. I don't let it affect what I'm doing, because I focus on the baby steps, focusing on, okay, did I get the water? Did I get the exercise? Did I eat the healthy foods today? The other thing that I did, so that mind shift was important. Not sweating the large stuff, not focusing on the scale, making sure that I'm making completing the baby steps. The other thing that was helpful, I actually was writing down what I eat, and I still write down what I eat. The reason being is because I will snack, I will graze, and before you know it, you're like, how many calories did I eat? You're like, whoa. So I have to kind of keep myself in check and be like, all right, okay, be careful, be mindful. Studies show that people who have lost 30 pounds and maintained it, they keep a food log. So it's helpful. It is really helpful. Hate it because it's like, it's more time, but it's really helped you to be more mindful. And last thing I would say that was the mind shift change was I focused on my progress, not perfection. Because a lot of times get real, tense or stressed because we're not doing something perfectly. And there are going to be days I don't do it perfect. I will eat a piece of cake, but I'm not going to fret about it. I'm not going to sweat. I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to gain 5 pounds with this cake. No, I'm just like, hey, we're just going to exercise.
Right.
So I don't sweat the small stuff, and I give myself grace.
Yes. That's so good. Excuse me. When I first started too, I would keep track of what I was eating, because like I said, it's hard to know what to change if you don't know what you're doing. So usually, I definitely tell people to start out with that, because sometimes we tend to leave out the bad things and only think about the good things eating. I don't know about you, but when I ask patients, so, what do you eat? Well, I ate some vegetables. Like, that's usually the first thing to come out their mouth. No, they ate one vegetable that lasts 3 months, So like, if you actually write it down, let's see what you actually have. So I love that tip. Like you said, you were focused on doing, being consistent with what you could do and what you could control. And there's just sometimes things in life that will occur. Like you said, especially women on our cycles or things like that, it's just, we're just going to fluctuate. So just knowing that you can stay in charge of what you can control. So that's so good. So excuse me, you already told us a few things about what you've been doing to keep the weight off. But can you tell us a bit more of like what you're doing to be successful? Because your podcast is about avoiding that weight regain, and that's what a lot of us struggle with, because like I said, most time we can lose the weight, but then here we're back at the weight and then higher, right? So what can you tell the listeners about what we can do to avoid that regain?
Yes. And so definitely by some of the steps that I mentioned, being mindful of what you're doing. I like to have like weekly check-ins, because a lot of times we won't, life gets in the way. We're not worrying about our weight. We're eating whatnot. We're not exercising. And so sometimes it gets lost. We may go on vacation and we just are like, I'm on vacation, I'm not worrying about it. But I do like to do a weekly check-in where I weigh myself. And I weigh myself regardless as if I think I gained weight or not. Because sometimes I'm like, oh, I know I gained weight. I feel it. Oh my gosh. I have to get on the scale. And I'm just huffing and puffing. I'm like, just get on the scale.
Yeah.
And when I get on the scale, at least I can see where I am. Even if I gain weight, I'm like, okay, at least I know where I am right now. Now I'm going to go and make some changes and go forward. So it's kind of like a reset for me. So making sure you have that weekly check-in where you evaluate, hey, how did I do the last week? Was on vacation? Was I not as, in tune to the healthy habits? Or was it just I was sick and I didn't eat much, So just making sure that you kind of reflect on what's going on so that you can plan for the week coming up. The other thing that I do is I actually take a medication, so an anti-obesity medication to help with curbing my appetite. The one thing we've noticed with people, especially after bariatric surgery, who have weight regain, it's not necessarily the fact that you're not doing the things, right? You're eating too much, but sometimes it's biological. And so for me, I mean, I've never actually measured my hunger hormones, but I definitely feel them.
I know they're there.
They are working and in order. So it helps me with kind of curbing that appetite where I'm not like, oh, what are we going to eat? And let me, because sometimes that happens. Because some days I'm not as on top of it. I may not take the weekly injection, and I feel it. I notice that my hunger hormones go up. And so it helps me with kind of curbing that appetite. The other thing that's important too is physical activity. I cannot stress the importance of physical activity. And I know there are people who may have limitations due to knee pain, back pain, but there is some physical activity that you can do. And the studies have shown that to prevent weight regain, you should be exercising 200 to 300 minutes per week. And so that's usually probably about an hour, 5 days out the week. If at the 300 range, if the 200 range, it may be 1 hour, 3 to 4 days of exercise. And the reason being is that that's going to help maintain your weight. So for me, with the Ironman, that has been a game changer. So my weight was, it was fluctuating, but kind of staying the same. But when I started doing the Ironman training, that's when I started losing, I lost a good 30 pounds with Ironman training.
Wow.
And that's just with exercise, doing the swimming, the running, and the biking. And so that kind of really kick-started where I am currently in my weight because of that.
Okay. So I like that. One thing I wanted to point out, because you're like 200 to 300 minutes a week of exercise, or most of the time, American Heart, I think, talks about the 150 minutes. But to avoid that regain, especially like I said, after surgery, you may have to do a bit more. So maybe double that. So I'm glad you pointed that out, because I didn't know that. Also, that if excuse me, if you had some struggling, were you gonna say something?
And then that 150 minutes is for general health benefit.
Yes,
so that's
yes.
Healthy.
That's so true. Like I said that, but I haven't actually, that didn't register into my mind till you said that. I'm like, of course you would have to do more if you're trying to do the weight loss and maintain that. So I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So I wanted to point that out since you brought that up. I was like, yes, I love that. And then another thing that you did mention is why I wanted to also have you on to talk about obesity medicine is that sometimes, like you said, there's some things that we're doing correct, and we're still having trouble losing weight, and that you would see someone like Dr. Shelly, that's an obesity medicine specialist, that can talk to you about those medications that can actually help with weight loss. And like I said, I didn't know that was even a thing, like I said, until after I finished residency and everything like that. So definitely glad that you brought that out, and that you yourself actually use that to actually help curb your appetite. So again, stressing to people that it's not like you're weak or you're not doing the right things. It's just that sometimes it's different hormones biologically that's going on. So thank you for bringing that up. Now I want to switch over, because you started to mention this about this Ironman training. So excuse me, I always tell people, I was like, I'm a half marathon girl. I don't go all the way. So you've done 6 marathons and now you're doing this Ironman training. So for us that may not be in the fitness world, tell us exactly what an Ironman is, and then go more in detail to this training that you're doing to reach this goal.
Yeah, so an Ironman is a triathlon, but it actually is a longer distance. So an Ironman is usually 2.4 miles swimming, 160 miles of riding your bike, and 26.2 miles of running, all in the same day. All in the same day.
Wait a minute, real quick. How many miles on the bike?
116.
I thought you said 100 something. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. 116 miles on the bike. I think my legs would die. Then you have to run 26.2 miles after that. Oh, girl. Okay, go ahead.
So, and I want to say that, and to let people know, I've never been athletic. I actually started running in 2016, and I started from a couch to 5K.
Mm.
And I did the 5K, and I was like, this is great. So let me do a 10K. I'm gonna up the ante, and I love the 10K. I went to the half marathon distance and was like, oh my God, this is too much. But then, but then I realized if you train for it, you'll be okay. And so that's when I ended up doing the marathon. And I realized what I love about marathon running is the training, is the person you have to become in order to finish this race. Because you have,
Yes.
it's not overnight. It's something that you do consistently where you're running, you're getting the miles in. And I don't run straight. I believe in intervals.
Okay.
There's a guy called Jeff Galloway who has just talked about intervals. He actually qualified for Boston Marathon, doing a 15-second interval run walk. So it is possible to run a marathon in intervals, and I highly recommend it, because you can whenever it gets tough for me, I just, in my mind, I'm like, listen, you can run for 45 seconds and then take a break.
Mm-hmm.
So needless to say, that's when I started that. And then I'm always one that likes challenges, and I never thought I could do an Ironman. But I realized from the marathon, if I train for it, maybe I'll get there. And I said maybe, but I will get there.
You will get there. You will get there.
We'll get there. Well, listen, we're just gonna keep going. That's all I'm gonna say. The funny thing is, I had seen a gentleman, I forget his name now, but he had Down syndrome, and he completed an Ironman. And when they showed like his schedule, I was like, oh my gosh, this gentleman who has Down syndrome was able to complete an Ironman. I can complete an Ironman if I just do the training. And so I've been training since October of last year to do this Ironman. I've done an Ironman half in May. I've done multiple smaller triathlons or shorter distance triathlons. In fact, I'm doing a triathlon this tomorrow.
Oh wow. Okay.
So we're getting all the triathlons in, and we're getting better. And I have to say that, definitely I've changed. Definitely, not only that I've lost weight, but my work ethic has changed. I find that I've had to delegate things. I've had to make things more of a priority in life in order to do this. It's not, it's not for the faint of heart. You're really putting the time in. But my Ironman is actually in September, so I have about a little over a month. I have like.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to be able to just lay it on the line.
Mm-hmm.
I've trained for this moment and this moment already. So the goal is to have no injuries, to make no mechanical failures, and to just keep going.
Yes.
And so definitely the mindset is important. So just being like, hey, I can do this, and to keep going is going to be what I use to get to the finish line. And I will start crying at the finish line. I really will. I cried at my half marathon, the Ironman half. I cried. The lady was like, you're making me cry. I was like, I'm sorry. I went through so much.
I know.
It may be 12 at night, but I'm crossing that finish line.
Right. Yes. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I know you can follow people on there, and like I've been stalking your Instagram, things like that, to see what you're doing, because I just find it so amazing. Because like you, I was not a runner either, and it's just amazing to see, like you said, the person you have to become to do that, and to know that even though you didn't start out that way, that you definitely can become that way just with the training. And like I said, have the mindset. It's not always just thinking, but you actually have to put in the work, right? You can't just say, oh yeah, I want to do an Ironman, and then tomorrow you just go out and do it. No, that's how you really hurt yourself. And unfortunately, I think some people have died trying to just do that, and your body's too much. So it's great that you've been putting in the training, and like I said, I look forward to following you in September to see. I know you're going to finish. I may have to wake up a little bit later and see that you did finish, because I'm an early to bed kind of person, but I know you will. And like I said, I'm just excited for your journey, and thank you so much for sharing with us. So before I let you go, I know you're working, but can you give our audience just a couple tips, like your top 2 to 5 tips, whatever you want to tell us, about what we can do in our weight loss journey, and trying to keep it off, that maybe you haven't mentioned already?
All right. The one thing I would say is this. There's a saying in running, run your race, your pace. And so a lot of times when we're on our weight loss journey, we're looking at everybody else and we're like, oh my gosh, she's lost 20 pounds. Oh my gosh, he's lost 10 pounds. And we're like, well, what is going on with me? And then we're kind of beating ourselves up. No, no, no. Your race, your pace. Okay. You're going to lose weight differently than somebody else. So don't compare yourself. That's the first thing. The second thing, have realistic expectations, right? I remember I was in the grocery store and I was looking at, the magazines while you're checking out, and it literally said drop 43 pounds by Memorial Day. And I looked at the date of the magazine. I was like, the magazine is May 9th. Like,
What?
43 pounds in 3 weeks. Like, what fandango thing are you guys selling? So, and in our minds we see that and we're like, oh yes, we should be doing this. And the answer is it's not realistic.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Not realistic at all. So have realistic goals. Don't get discouraged. Keep moving forward. Stay consistent. Because when we look at the story of the tortoise and the hare, the tortoise wins because it was consistent. So that's my advice.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you again, Dr. Shelly, for coming on and gracing us with your wisdom. I greatly appreciate it. So if someone is interested in marathons, Ironman training, or just avoiding weight regain, how would they get in contact with you?
Yes. So I have the podcast and I actually just recently changed the name. So like this week, the Back on Track. No, that's okay. Back on Track, Achieving Healthy Weight Loss. So definitely look that up in my podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at Dr. Shelly MD and see my Ironman experience.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I will definitely link your podcast with the correct name this time on the description of this channel. And we definitely wish you the best of luck, Dr. Shelly. I know you're going to do great, and I'll probably cry with you once I see you cross the finish line. So I was like,
she did it. She did it.
Yes, inspiration to us all. Yes, ma'am. All right, but thank you so much again. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good night. Have a good day.